You think ambition is dirty. You've been taught to apologize for wanting more, to dim your hunger, to pretend you don't see the chessboard while everyone else is playing checkers. They told you Slytherin was the house of villains, didn't they? The serpent's den where only the cruel and cunning dared to tread. But let me ask you something. Who wrote that story? Who decided that calculated intelligence was somehow less noble than reckless bravery? Who convinced you that self-preservation was selfishness? I spent decades in the shadows, playing a game so dangerous that one wrong move would have cost me everything. And they called me a coward. They called me cold. What they never understood is that surviving between two dark lords requires more courage than any battlefield charge, more loyalty than any public display of heroism. The serpent doesn't strike randomly. It waits, it watches, it knows exactly when to reveal its fangs. You're here because something inside you recognizes the truth they've been hiding from you. That ambition isn't the enemy. That cunning is just intelligence with strategy. That sometimes the greatest act of love is the one no one ever sees. Welcome to the lesson they never wanted you to learn. This isn't about becoming darker. This is about becoming deliberate. This is about understanding that the world doesn't reward the pure of heart. It rewards those who know how to play the game without losing themselves entirely. So let's shed some skin, shall we? Because your inner Slytherin has been waiting far too long to finally breathe. They'll tell you to be humble, to wait your turn, to not reach too high lest you fall too far. Beautiful advice for keeping you exactly where you are, don't you think? The world loves nothing more than potential that never actualizes, dreams that stay safely locked in journals, and talent that politely asks permission to exist. But here's what they won't tell you. Ambition is the engine of transformation. It's the refusal to accept the hand you were dealt when you know you can shuffle the deck yourself. Every great achievement in history, every revolution, every spell that changed the very fabric of magic itself, came from someone who dared to want more than what was offered. The founders of Hogwarts didn't stumble into greatness by accident. Salazar Slytherin understood something fundamental. The hunger for excellence, when properly directed, becomes unstoppable force. You've felt it, haven't you? That burning sensation when you see someone less capable occupying the space you deserve. That quiet rage when mediocrity gets rewarded while your brilliance goes unnoticed. They want you to feel ashamed of that fire. They call it envy, bitterness, arrogance. I call it clarity. You see the game for what it is, and unlike the naive, you refuse to pretend the Emperor is wearing clothes when he's clearly naked. The difference between a Gryffindor and a Slytherin isn't courage versus cowardice. It's noise versus calculation. They charge in with banners flying, announcing their intentions to anyone who'll listen. We move in silence, 3 steps ahead, with contingency plans for our contingency plans. By the time they realize what's happened, we're already holding the keys to the kingdom. And here's the beautiful irony. They never saw us coming because they were too busy watching themselves in the mirror, rehearsing their hero speeches. Patience is not passivity. Let me be exceptionally clear about this. because the fools confuse the two constantly. A snake coiled in the grass isn't doing nothing. It's doing everything. Reading the terrain, measuring distances, calculating strike trajectories, waiting for the precise moment when success is inevitable rather than merely possible. This is the magic they don't teach in defense against the dark arts, the power of perfect timing. I watched James Potter strut through the corridors like he owned the castle. All flash and thunder with nothing beneath the surface. Everyone loved him for it. Meanwhile, I was brewing potions that could kill or cure with equal efficiency. Mastering magic most wizards couldn't pronounce. Building a foundation of knowledge so deep that when the moment came, and it always comes, I would be indispensable. Who do you think Dumbledore trusted with the most dangerous mission in wizarding history? The showboat or the strategist? Your moment is coming too, but only if you're building in the shadows while others are performing in the spotlight. While they're collecting applause, you should be collecting leverage, information, skills, relationships that matter, not relationships that sparkle. The social currency of fools depreciates quickly, but real power compounds in the dark like interest in a Gringotts vault that nobody knows exists. Here's what drives them mad. We're willing to wait. We'll take the smaller victory today if it positions us for the greater triumph tomorrow. We'll accept the insult now if it means we'll own the narrative later. Time is our cauldron, and we're always stirring something that won't be ready until the exact moment it needs to be. They want instant gratification. We want permanent elevation. Can you see the difference? It's the difference between fireworks and fortresses. Cunning. Such an ugly word to them, isn't it? They spit it out like it's synonymous with deception, with manipulation, with moral bankruptcy. But strip away their pearl-clutching righteousness, and what is cunning, really? It's simply the ability to see multiple paths when others see only one. It's reading the room while everyone else is just standing in it. It's understanding that the same situation can yield entirely different outcomes, depending on how you navigate it. I taught potions for nearly 2 decades. And do you know what separated the adequate students from the exceptional ones? It wasn't talent. Talent is common. Half the dunderheads stumbling through my classroom had natural ability. They squandered with carelessness. No, what mattered was the capacity to think 3 ingredients ahead. To understand that timing and temperature could transform the same components into either poison or panacea. Life operates on identical principles, yet they call you devious for recognizing it. They want you to believe there's honor in being straightforward, in telegraphing your every move, in wearing your heart on your robes like some Hufflepuff badge of authenticity. Admirable, perhaps. Effective, rarely. The world is not a fair dueling ground where everyone bows before they cast. It's a forest full of predators, and the ones who survive aren't the loudest. They're the most adaptable, the most aware. The ones who understand that sometimes the best defense looks like retreat, and sometimes the greatest victory looks like losing. Let me share something that will make the righteous uncomfortable. Every meaningful relationship in your life is, at its core, a negotiation. Love, friendship, professional alliance. All of them involve an exchange of value, spoken or unspoken. The Slytherin simply has the honesty to acknowledge this truth and the intelligence to ensure the exchange benefits them. We're not heartless. We're just not stupid enough to pretend that intentions alone build empires or protect the people we care about. You want to help those you love. Acquire the power to actually do so, instead of offering empty solidarity. Here's where they really lose the plot. They've convinced you that putting yourself first is somehow morally reprehensible, that self-sacrifice is the highest virtue, that martyrdom is more noble than survival. Beautiful philosophy. Write it on a tombstone, because that's where it leads. You can't pour from an empty cauldron, and you can't protect anyone from a grave. I made choices that haunted me, choices that required me to become something I despised in order to protect something I loved. And yes, I prioritized my survival because my death would have meant hers as well. The foolish call that cowardice. The wise call it strategic necessity. There's a reason the safety instructions on a Muggle airplane tell you to secure your own oxygen mask before helping others. You're no good to anyone if you're unconscious or dead, and the world has enough well-intentioned corpses already. Self-preservation means understanding your limits and not apologizing for them. It means recognizing that you cannot save everyone, fix everything, or be available at all hours for every crisis that isn't yours. It means drawing boundaries that others will call cruel because your boundaries inconvenience their expectations. Let them be inconvenienced. Their emergency is not automatically your obligation, and their inability to plan is not your responsibility to resolve. The martyr complex is seductive, I'll grant you that. It feels virtuous to burn yourself out for others, to sacrifice your time, your energy, your mental health on the altar of being needed. But ask yourself honestly, are you helping them, or are you feeding your own need to be seen as helpful? Are you saving them, or are you preventing them from developing the strength to save themselves? The Slytherin knows that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is letting them face their own dragons, while you tend to your own dungeons. Respect is built on capability, not rescue missions. They think we're incapable of loyalty because we don't perform it like a trained Krupp doing tricks for treats. But loyalty without strategy is just blind allegiance. And I've seen where that leads. Straight into the wands of Dark Lords who exploit devotion like it's an infinite resource. True loyalty, the kind that actually matters, isn't declared in grand speeches. It's proven in the shadows where nobody's watching and there's no reward for doing the right thing except knowing you did it. I was loyal to someone for decades after she was gone. Not because it earned me gratitude or recognition, quite the opposite. It earned me suspicion, isolation, and a reputation as a villain. I was loyal because the alternative was unthinkable, because some debts transcend death, and some promises you keep even when the person you made them to can no longer hold you accountable. That's Slytherin loyalty. It doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't require validation. It simply endures. But here's what we understand that others don't. Loyalty must be earned, and it can be revoked. We don't pledge ourselves to institutions, causes, or people simply because we're told to, or because it's expected. We assess, we observe, we determine whether this person, this group, this mission is worthy of our considerable resources. And if they betray us, if they squander our trust, if they prove themselves unworthy, we withdraw, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. The Gryffindor forgives 70 times 7 and calls it noble. The Slytherin forgives once, maybe twice if you're exceptional, and then remembers forever. We also choose our people carefully, which means we choose fewer people, quality over quantity. I'd rather have 3 allies who would actually hide my body than 30 friends who'd share condolences at my funeral. We build small circles of absolute trust rather than large networks of pleasant acquaintances. And within that circle, we are ruthlessly protective. Touch one of ours, and you'll discover exactly how creative we can be with consequences. They call it tribalism. We call it knowing the difference between allies and audience. Let's discuss something deliciously uncomfortable. Authenticity is overrated. There, I said it. Before you start clutching your pearls about integrity and being true to yourself, consider this. Showing everyone everything all the time isn't authenticity. It's poor strategy. It's handing your enemies a detailed map of your vulnerabilities and calling it honesty. The Slytherin understands that there are versions of yourself for different arenas, and managing those versions isn't deception, it's intelligence. For years, I walked a razor's edge between 2 masters who could have killed me with a thought. Do you think I showed Voldemort my true face? Do you think I let Dumbledore see all my cards? I gave each of them exactly what they needed to see. Nothing more, nothing less. The man they met was real, but he wasn't complete. That's the art of it. You're not lying about who you are. You're simply being selective about which truths you reveal and when. Context dictates disclosure, not some naive commitment to total transparency. Your colleagues don't need to know your political views. Your competitors don't deserve insight into your insecurities. Your family doesn't require real-time updates on every doubt you harbor. Information is power, and giving it away freely is foolish. The Slytherin curates their personal brand the way a potions master measures ingredients, precisely, purposefully, with full awareness that the wrong amount in the wrong place creates disaster. You can be genuine without being an open book. You can be trustworthy without being transparent about everything. This isn't about becoming fake or phony. It's about recognizing that different situations require different aspects of your personality, and being strategic about which aspects you deploy. You wouldn't wear dragonhide gloves to a wedding or dress robes to a duel. Why would you bring your whole emotional landscape to every interaction? The professional mask, the social mask, the intimate mask, these aren't lies, they're layers. And the people who earn access to the deeper layers have proven they can handle the privilege. Everyone else gets the surface, and they should feel fortunate to receive even that. Here's where the Slytherin diverges sharply from recklessness disguised as courage. We take risks, substantial ones, but never without weighing the potential costs against the probable gains. Every move is a calculated equation. What do I stand to win? What might I lose? Can I survive the worst-case scenario? If the answer to that last question is no, then we don't play. If the answer is yes, we play to win, and we've already planned our exit strategy before we've even entered the room. The difference between bravery and stupidity is often just whether the gamble paid off. History remembers the successful risks as heroic and the failed ones as foolish, but the decision-making process was identical. The Slytherin refuses to let fate make that determination. We stack the deck. We gather intelligence. We create advantages that others don't even know exist. When we finally make our move, it looks bold to observers, but to us, it's the culmination of meticulous preparation. The outcome was never truly in doubt, because we eliminated as many variables as possible before we began. Think of it as the difference between jumping off a cliff, hoping you can fly, and jumping off a cliff after you've already brewed a dozen Felix Felicis and cast every protective enchantment known to wizard kind. Both involve leaving solid ground. Only one is strategic. I didn't walk into my role as a spy because I was feeling particularly brave one morning. I walked into it because I had skills that made me valuable, leverage that made me necessary, and knowledge that made me dangerous to both sides. That's not courage. That's positioning yourself so well that even the most perilous path becomes navigable. You want to take risks. Excellent. Build your foundation first. Develop skills that make you irreplaceable. Create relationships that provide safety nets. Accumulate resources that cushion failure. Then, and only then, make your bold move. The entrepreneurial Slytherin doesn't quit their job to chase a dream. They build their empire in the evenings and weekends until it's already successful. Then they walk away from employment as a formality. The romantic Slytherin doesn't confess their feelings without first ensuring there's mutual interest. We test the waters. We read the signs. We create opportunities for the other person to reveal their hand. When we finally act, we're confirming what we already know rather than gambling on a hope. The serpent sheds its skin, not because it wants to, but because it must. Growth requires letting go of what no longer serves you, even when that skin feels comfortable, even when the process leaves you vulnerable. The Slytherin understands that transformation isn't a single dramatic moment. It's a series of quiet molts that happen in darkness, away from applause or approval. You don't become powerful by collecting everyone's blessing. You become powerful by repeatedly choosing evolution over comfort. I spent decades wearing a skin that wasn't mine, playing a role that demanded I betray everything I appeared to be. And when that skin was finally shed, when the truth emerged, it changed nothing about who I had become in the process. The role shaped me as much as I shaped it. That's the paradox nobody warns you about. Sometimes you put on a mask for so long that it fuses with your face, and you can't remember where the performance ended and the person began. Is that tragic or transcendent? I'll let you decide. Your inner Slytherin isn't asking you to become cruel or heartless. It's asking you to become clear-eyed and purposeful. To stop pretending the world operates on fairness when it clearly operates on leverage. To stop waiting for permission when you could be building capability. To stop performing goodness for an audience when you could be enacting strategy in the shadows. The serpent doesn't announce its presence. It simply moves through the grass, efficient and focused, striking only when necessary and always with precision. There's a reason the serpent has been both feared and revered throughout history. It represents transformation, healing, danger, and wisdom all at once. It cannot be domesticated, only respected. It doesn't seek approval, only effectiveness. And when it looks at you with those unblinking eyes, it's not judging your morality, it's assessing your commitment. Are you willing to do what's necessary, not just what's comfortable? Are you prepared to be misunderstood by those who lack the vision to see 10 moves ahead? Can you live with being called the villain if it means accomplishing what the heroes could not? Immediate gratification is the opiate of the mediocre. They want results now, recognition today, success by next Tuesday. The Slytherin plays a different game entirely. One measured not in moments, but in movements, not in applause, but in accumulation. We're building legacies while they're chasing trends. We're establishing dynasties while they're celebrating viral moments. There's a reason most of the oldest, most powerful wizarding families were Slytherin. We understand that true power is generational, not situational. Every choice you make is either an investment or an expense. The Slytherin asks, what will this cost me in 5 years? What will this earn me in 10? How does this move position me for opportunities I can't even see yet? Most people optimize for today and wonder why tomorrow disappoints them. We sacrifice today's comfort for tomorrow's dominance. We accept today's misunderstanding for tomorrow's vindication. The delayed gratification isn't a burden. It's a filter that separates those who merely want success from those who will actually achieve it. Consider how a chess master thinks. They're not focused on winning the next exchange. They're arranging the board so that 10 moves from now, checkmate becomes inevitable. The opponent doesn't see it coming because they're still celebrating the pawn they just captured, not realizing they've walked directly into a trap that was set 7 moves ago. That's Slytherin thinking. That's the long game. And it requires something most people simply don't have. The discipline to appear weak when you're setting up strength. To seem defeated when you're actually in control. To lose battles strategically so you can win the war decisively. The world rewards this patience eventually, though the world will never admit it. They'll attribute your success to luck, timing, privilege, anything except the years of calculated decisions they never saw you making. Let them. Their ignorance is your advantage. While they're busy explaining away your achievements, you're already positioning yourself for the next level they don't know exists yet. The long game doesn't just win. It wins so thoroughly that the competition doesn't even realize they were playing. Here's the part they really don't want to hear. Sometimes the most moral thing you can do is something that looks immoral from the outside. Sometimes protecting the innocent requires getting your hands dirty. Sometimes saving lives means taking actions that would make saints recoil. The Slytherin doesn't flinch from this reality. We understand. that the world isn't saved by people who maintain their purity. It's saved by people willing to sacrifice their reputation, their peace, even their soul, if necessary, to do what must be done. I lived in the darkness for so long that I forgot what light felt like. I broke bread with murderers. I took the mark. I said unforgivable things and performed unforgivable acts, all while serving a cause that nobody knew I was serving. Was I good? Was I evil? These are questions for philosophers with clean hands and clear consciences. I was effective. And in the end, effectiveness is what mattered. The moral high ground is a lovely place for a picnic, but it's a terrible position from which to fight a war. This doesn't mean the ends always justify the means. It means you must be clear about what ends you're actually serving and whether those ends are worth the means required. Voldemort believed his ends justified his means, but his ends were power for power's sake, domination for the pleasure of domination. That's not strategy, that's pathology. The Slytherin serves something beyond themselves, even if their methods must sometimes dip into shadow. We don't become monsters. We become whatever is necessary to stop the actual monsters, and we accept that history might not distinguish between us. The irony is exquisite. The people who maintain their moral purity often do so because someone else is willing to compromise theirs. They can afford to be good because we're willing to be effective. They can keep their hands clean because ours are already stained. And they'll judge us for it, of course. They'll sleep soundly in the world we've protected, never knowing what it cost to keep them safe, never understanding the choices we made in rooms they'll never enter. That's fine. We weren't doing it for their gratitude anyway. Nothing worth having comes without cost, and power has the steepest price tag of all. Not money. Money is easy. Power costs you comfort. It costs you popularity. It costs you the luxury of being liked by everyone, because you'll have to make decisions that benefit some and disadvantage others. The Slytherin accepts this invoice without complaint. We knew what we were signing up for when we chose ambition over ease. You cannot be powerful and universally beloved. It's a mathematical impossibility. Every decision that elevates you will bother someone who wanted that elevation for themselves. Every boundary you enforce will upset someone who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Every time you choose your own interests over someone else's convenience, they'll call you selfish. The weak are terrified of this. They contort themselves into pretzels, trying to please everyone, and in doing so, they please no one, least of all themselves. The Slytherin makes peace with being disliked by people whose opinions don't matter, and respected by people whose opinions do. Power also demands isolation. The higher you climb, the fewer peers you have, the more lonely the view becomes. You'll outgrow friendships. You'll outlast relationships. You'll realize that most people in your life were there for who you were, not who you're becoming, and they'll resent your evolution because it highlights their stagnation. This isn't tragic. It's natural selection. Some connections are meant to be outgrown. Some people are chapters, not the whole story. The Slytherin releases them without bitterness, understanding that different altitudes require different company. But here's what they don't tell you about power's price. You also lose the comfort of victimhood. You can't blame circumstances anymore when you have the capability to change them. You can't play helpless when everyone knows you're competent. You surrender the sympathy that comes with struggle once you've clearly won. People stop rooting for you and start waiting for you to fall. That's the tax on success. The more you achieve, the more others want to see you fail, if only to confirm their decision not to try as hard. Pay it gladly. It means you've arrived somewhere they can only imagine. The sorting hat doesn't make mistakes, but it does give choices. It saw potential in me for Gryffindor once. Bravery born from desperation, courage fueled by loss. But I chose Slytherin, and that choice defined everything that followed. Not because Slytherin made me who I became, but because it gave me permission to become who I already was. You're facing your own sorting ceremony right now. Not in a castle hall, but in the quiet moments when you decide who you're willing to become. The question isn't whether you have Slytherin traits. You do. Everyone does. Ambition lives in anyone who's ever wanted more than what they have. Cunning exists in anyone who's ever found a smarter path than the obvious one. Self-preservation drives anyone who's ever chosen their own well-being over someone else's expectation. The question is whether you're brave enough to embrace these traits instead of apologizing for them. Whether you're willing to stop performing humility you don't feel and start exercising capability you do have. Embracing your inner Slytherin doesn't mean abandoning your other qualities. I never stopped being capable of love, even when love brought me nothing but pain. I never lost my sense of justice, even when justice required injustice to achieve. You don't have to choose between being good and being effective. You have to integrate them. Use your Slytherin traits in service of something that matters. Let your ambition fuel meaningful goals, not just selfish ones. Apply your cunning to problems worth solving, not just personal advancement. Protect yourself so you can protect others. The world needs Slytherins. Not the cartoon villains they've made us into, but the strategists, the realists, the people willing to make hard decisions and accept the consequences. We're the ones who turn impossible situations into improbable victories. We're the ones who see resources where others see restrictions. We're the ones who survive when survival seems impossible, and then use that survival to accomplish something that matters. So stop waiting for permission to be powerful. The sorting hat is asking you a question. What's your answer? They'll tell you this philosophy is dangerous. They'll say it leads to corruption, to cruelty, to becoming everything you should despise. Let them worry. They've never had to navigate the space between light and dark, where most of life actually happens. They've never had to choose between their morals and their mission, between who they want to be and who they need to be. You have. That's why you're still here, still listening, still recognizing yourself in these words, even as part of you insists you shouldn't. The serpent doesn't apologize for its nature. It doesn't pretend to be a dove to make others comfortable. It moves through the world with purpose, with precision, with absolute clarity about what it is and what it requires. And when threatened, it doesn't hesitate, it strikes. Not from malice, but from necessity. Not from cruelty, but from the fundamental drive to survive and succeed. Your inner Slytherin has been coiled in the grass for too long, waiting for permission that will never come, seeking approval from people who will never give it. I spent my entire life being misunderstood, misjudged, and ultimately vindicated too late for it to matter. But here's what I learned in those dungeons, in those shadows, in those impossible years of playing both sides. The only opinion of you that truly matters is your own. The only validation you need is the knowledge that you did what had to be done, that you played the game with excellence, that you transformed your circumstances instead of surrendering to them. History might judge you harshly. Let it. You'll be too busy building the future to care about the past's opinion. So embrace it. That hunger that society told you to starve. That cunning they labeled as manipulation. That self-interest they shamed as selfishness. That strategic patience they mistook for cowardice. That loyalty that doesn't perform for applause. That willingness to wear masks without losing yourself beneath them. That capacity to make hard choices in service of greater purposes. This is your power. This is your inheritance. This is the serpent's gift, and it's been yours all along. The only question left is whether you're finally ready to claim it, to rise from the grass, to shed the skin of who they wanted you to be and become who you were always meant to be. After all, greatness was never found in the comfortable middle. It was always lurking in the ambitious depths, waiting for someone brave enough, or perhaps slithering enough, to dive in and seize it.